The dimly lit briefing chamber buzzed with uneasy murmurs. Holograms of burning cities, shattered fleets, and decimated colonies floated above the round table. It was a brutal reminder of the Kelder's unchecked aggression. Captain Mara Vane stood near the edge, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. The sharp lines of her face seemed carved from stone as she stared at the central projection, the image of High Emperor Zorith Velkan. The alien leader's crimson robes shimmered with ostentatious power. His reptilian features twisted into a cruel smirk as he delivered his ultimatum. The recording echoed in the room like a ghost. "Humans," Zorith began, his voice a guttural growl. "Your defiance ends here. You have one planetary rotation to surrender or face obliteration. Halvaris will burn first, and Earth will follow. This is not a negotiation. Submit, or be forgotten." The recording ended, leaving silence heavy in the air. The small gathering of military and political leaders exchanged tense glances. Mara waited, letting the weight of their fear hang like a noose. Admiral Kerr was the first to speak, his voice brittle. "He's not bluffing. The Kelder have the firepower to make good on that threat. Halvaris is defenseless. If we lose it, Earth will be next. Billions will die," Mara finished coldly. She stepped forward, her boots striking the floor with measured finality. "Unless we hit back." "Captain," interjected Ambassador Folsom, his tone laced with frustration. "You're talking about escalation. Diplomacy has failed." Mara cut in, her steel-gray eyes locking on him. "They've massacred 3 colonies. They're not interested in peace." "What are you suggesting?" Admiral Kerr asked, leaning forward. Mara's voice dropped, low and deliberate. "We take Zorith." The room erupted in murmurs. "You mean assassinate him?" Folsom asked, incredulous. "No," Mara clarified. "We capture him. Alive." She let the words sink in. Kelder society revolves around strength and dominance. Their entire empire is built on his leadership. If we take him, they'll hesitate. Maybe even fracture. It's the only leverage we'll get." Folsom shook his head. "That's madness. His flagship is a fortress. Even if you get past their defenses, there's no guarantee." "There's never a guarantee," Mara snapped. "But doing nothing guarantees one thing: we lose." Admiral Kerr nodded slowly. "What's your plan?" Mara took a deep breath, mentally preparing for the pitch. "The flagship, the Dominion's Wrath, is in orbit over Halvaris. We'll infiltrate using a prototype stealth ship. A small team, elite operatives only, will breach their security, neutralize resistance, and extract Zorith. Quick and surgical. Suicide," Folsom muttered under his breath. Mara ignored him, focusing on Kerr. "We've run simulations. The stealth tech will give us a shot, but timing is everything. We'll hit them during a planetary assault when their attention is split." "And if you're wrong?" Kerr asked. Mara's jaw tightened. "Then we die fighting, but we don't die on our knees." The room fell silent again. Kerr leaned back, his weathered face unreadable. "You'll need authorization from the Defense Council." "Already secured," Mara replied. She glanced at Folsom, whose expression soured further. "They know we're out of options." Kerr gave a short nod. "Assemble your team. You leave in 6 hours." The barracks were alive with muted chaos. Soldiers packed equipment, checked weapons, and exchanged grim words. Mara walked through the sea of activity, her sharp gaze scanning for the faces she'd chosen for this mission. She found Sergeant Elias Terran first, meticulously inspecting a plasma rifle. He looked up as she approached, his boyish face a contradiction to the hardened soldier beneath. "Captain," he greeted. "We're really doing this? Would you rather wait for them to bomb Halvaris into ash?" she asked, her tone clipped. Elias smirked faintly. "Point taken. Just wanted to hear it from you." "You'll hear plenty once we're in the thick of it," Mara said, moving on. Next was Lieutenant Kara Dren, a demolitions expert with a no-nonsense demeanor. She was packing explosives with a precision that bordered on obsessive. If you want anything blown up, Captain, just point, Kara said without looking up. Mara allowed a rare flicker of amusement. Trust me, I will. Finally, there was Corporal Jace Rourke, a quiet but deadly marksman. He leaned against the wall, cleaning his sniper rifle. You're late, he drawled, not bothering to look at her. Mara stopped in front of him. You're cocky. Confidence, Jace corrected, meeting her gaze. Let's hope it doesn't get you killed, Mara replied before turning to address the group. All of you, listen up, she began, her voice cutting through the noise. The room fell silent. This mission is high risk. We're heading into the heart of the enemy's war machine. If any of you have second thoughts, speak now. No one moved. Good. Remember, this isn't just about survival. It's about sending a message. Humanity doesn't bow. Not to anyone. A chorus of resolute nods followed. 6 hours later, Mara and her team boarded the Eclipse, a sleek, black stealth vessel outfitted with the latest cloaking technology. The interior was cramped but brimming with cutting-edge equipment. Mara sat in the cockpit beside the pilot, her fingers gripping the armrests as the ship prepared for launch. You nervous? Elias asked from the seat behind her. Focus, Mara replied without turning. The ship's engines hummed to life, and the Eclipse lifted off the hangar floor, slipping into the void of space. As they approached the massive silhouette of the Dominion's wrath, Mara felt a cold determination settle over her. Stealth systems engaged, the pilot announced. We're invisible, for now. Mara nodded, her gaze fixed on the looming flagship. All right, team. This is it. Stick to the plan, and we'll make it out alive. Let's remind the galaxy who we are. Her words carried no bravado, only a grim resolve. As the Eclipse drew closer to the Kelder flagship, Mara's grip tightened. The clock was ticking, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. The Eclipse drifted silently through the shadow of the Dominion's wrath. The Kelder flagship loomed like a monolith against the darkness of space, its jagged architecture glinting ominously in the light of a distant star. Mara's heartbeat echoed in her ears as she studied the sensor display, her squad seated around her in tense silence. Docking hatch in sight, the pilot murmured, his voice low and steady. Mara adjusted her comms headset. Elias, confirm the suppression code is ready. On it, Elias replied, tapping rapidly on a handheld console. Their external sensors will think we're a chunk of space debris. Give me 5 seconds. Done. We're ghosts. The Eclipse latched onto the flagship's underbelly with a soft mechanical clank. The team moved in unison, every motion rehearsed and deliberate. Mara led them to the airlock, her pulse steady, her mind focused. Breaching, Kara announced, kneeling by the hatch. Her fingers danced across the control panel, bypassing its security protocols with practiced efficiency. Moments later, the hatch hissed open, revealing the dim interior of the Kelder vessel. Mara raised her hand, signaling silence. Guns ready. No mistakes. They moved like shadows through the narrow corridors, their boots making no sound against the metal floor. The ship's design was alien and foreboding, walls of dark alloy pulsed faintly with energy, and the air smelled metallic and acrid. Contacts? Mara whispered. Clear so far, Jace replied, his rifle sweeping the corridor ahead. The team advanced toward the command sector, where Zorith was most likely to be found. They passed through maintenance bays and storage compartments, encountering only sporadic foot traffic. Kelder workers, clad in drab uniforms, glanced their way but saw nothing. Elias's suppression codes were masking the team's presence on internal sensors. The tension was palpable, every step fraught with the threat of discovery. Mara's grip tightened on her weapon as they reached a bulkhead door marked with alien runes. Kara studied the control panel beside it. This leads to their command wing, Kara whispered. But it's triple locked. Give me a minute. Mara nodded, her eyes scanning the corridor for movement. Make it quick. As Kara worked, a faint sound reached Mara's ears, footsteps, growing louder. Her hand shot up in warning. Elias, Jace, she hissed, pointing to opposite corners. Cover the approach. The two soldiers melted into the shadows, rifles trained on the source of the noise. A pair of Kelder guards rounded the corner, their elongated forms encased in sleek battle armor. Mara held her breath, watching as the guards paused a few meters away, their alien voices exchanging clipped words. For a moment, it seemed they might turn around, but then one of them tilted its head, a faint clicking sound escaping its throat. "They've noticed something," Elias muttered through the comms. "Not for long," Jace replied, his tone ice cold. Before the guards could react, two silent plasma shouts pierced the air. The guards crumpled to the ground without a sound. "Clear," Elias said, his voice low. "Good work," Mara replied. She turned to Kara. "Status?" "Almost there," Kara muttered, her fingers flying over the panel. With a final beep, the door slid open. "Got it." They stepped into the command wing, where the air was noticeably cooler. The corridor ahead branched into multiple directions, lined with doors bearing alien glyphs. Mara consulted her wrist-mounted holomap. "Zoratha's quarters should be straight ahead, behind the central door," she said. "And the bad news?" Elias asked. "High security," Mara replied grimly. "There'll be guards, and no avoiding them this time." The team moved forward cautiously, their weapons at the ready. The central door was unmistakable, larger and more ornate than the others, its surface etched with swirling patterns that glowed faintly. "Positions," Mara ordered. Jace and Elias took cover on either side of the corridor, while Kara prepared a flash charge. Mara counted down with her fingers 3, 2, 1. Kara hurled the charge, and the corridor lit up with a blinding flash. Shouts of alarm echoed from beyond the door, followed by the unmistakable thud of boots. The guards came charging out, tall, armored figures wielding plasma pikes. Mara's team opened fire in perfect coordination, their shots precise and lethal. The skirmish was brutal and swift, leaving a half-dozen Kelders sprawled on the floor. "Doors clear," Elias said, reloading his rifle. "Not for long," Mara replied. "Kara, get us inside." Kara hacked the door with practiced ease, and it slid open to reveal a cavernous chamber bathed in crimson light. At the far end stood Emperor Zorath, his imposing frame silhouetted against a massive viewport displaying the planet Halvaris below. Zorath turned, his piercing yellow eyes locking onto the intruders. He didn't move, his expression a mix of curiosity and disdain. "So," he said, his voice a deep rumble, "the humans think they can strike at the heart of the Dominion. Bold but foolish. Your reign ends here," Mara said, stepping forward with her rifle trained on him. Zorath chuckled, the sound resonating through the chamber. "Do you truly believe you can capture me? I am the Dominion." Mara didn't hesitate. "You're a figurehead, and we're cutting you off at the neck." Before Zorath could reply, Kara launched a stun grenade. The device exploded with a deafening crack, and Zorath staggered, momentarily disoriented. "Move!" Mara barked. The team surged forward, tackling Zorath to the ground. He fought with surprising strength, his claws raking against Elias's armor, but the team subdued him with reinforced restraints. "Got him," Elias panted. "Extraction point?" Mara asked, already checking her wrist display. "Compromise," Jace said grimly. "They're converging on our location." "Then we make a new one," Mara replied, hoisting Zorath to his feet. She turned to the team, her voice firm. "This isn't over. Stay sharp." As alarms blared throughout the flagship, the team dragged their captive into the labyrinthine corridors. The mission was far from complete, and the worst was yet to come. The deafening wail of the alarm filled the corridors, accompanied by the sharp metallic clang of locking doors. Crimson emergency lights pulsed in synchrony, casting long shadows that danced across the walls. Mara gritted her teeth as her team hustled through the labyrinthine passageways of the Dominion's wrath, their prize in tow. Emperor Zorath, restrained but defiant, walked with an unyielding posture, his alien features carved with contempt. "You cannot escape," Zorath growled, his voice steady despite the restraints. "This ship is my domain." Every step you take tightens the noose around your necks. Then we'll take shorter steps, Elias quipped, shoving the alien forward. Focus, Mara snapped, her tone sharp as a blade. Jace, status on enemy movements? Jace glanced at his scanner. Multiple squads converging, 2 on R6, 1 blocking the main route to the extraction point. They're hurting us. They think we're cornered, Mara said, a grim edge to her voice. We'll prove them wrong. Kara, we need another way out. Fast. Kara's fingers danced across her handheld terminal as she jogged alongside the team. There's an auxiliary hangar on this deck. It's not far, but... She paused, her eyes narrowing at the screen. But what? Mara pressed. It's not designed for escapes, Kara said. It's a maintenance bay. The only ships there will be unarmed and barely functional. They'll do, Mara said. Mark the route. Kara nodded, sending the coordinates to their visors. The team pushed forward, every corner fraught with danger. The ship seemed to breathe with activity, its walls alive with the hum of energy and the distant thudding of boots. Hold up, Jace whispered, raising a fist. The team halted, pressing against the walls. Ahead, the sound of Kelder voices echoed, growing louder. Mara peeked around the corner. A patrol of heavily armed guards stood at an intersection, their plasma rifles gleaming under the pulsing lights. Too many to take head on, she muttered. I've got an idea, Kara whispered, pulling a cylindrical device from her belt. A decoy drone? Elias asked, a grin tugging at his lips. Never leave home without one, Kara replied, activating the device. She placed it on the floor and gave it a gentle push. The drone rolled forward, emitting faint clicks and beeps designed to mimic malfunctioning equipment. The guards turned, their attention drawn to the strange sound. One barked an order in their guttural tongue, and they began advancing toward the decoy. No, Mara hissed. The team slipped past the distracted patrol, their movements swift and silent. Once clear, they quickened their pace, the auxiliary hangar drawing closer with every step. When they reached the hangar, Mara's heart sank. The bay was vast and cluttered, its walls lined with dormant shuttles in various states of disrepair. Overhead, cranes and mechanical arms hung like skeletal appendages. This is what you call a way out, Elias said, his voice tinged with disbelief. Less complaining, more finding us a ride, Mara shot back. Kara ran to a nearby console, her hands flying across its alien interface. Most of these are non-functional, but there's one. There! She pointed to a sleek, black shuttle tucked in the corner. It's a supply craft. Small, fast, and intact. Perfect, Mara said. Everyone move! The team sprinted toward the shuttle, but the sound of approaching boots brought them to a halt. They're here, Jace muttered, raising his rifle. Defensive positions, Mara ordered. They took cover behind crates and machinery as a wave of Kelder soldiers stormed into the hangar. Plasma bolts lit up the room, sizzling past the team's cover. Mara returned fire, her shots precise, each one finding its mark. Kara, get that shuttle running, she shouted over the chaos. Working on it, Kara yelled back, dashing toward the craft. Elias fired in bursts, keeping the advancing soldiers at bay. We can't hold them forever. We won't need to, Mara said, her tone resolute. Kara reached the shuttle, her hands moving with frantic precision as she bypassed its security protocols. The craft hummed to life, its engines emitting a low whine. Shuttle's ready, Kara called out. Go, 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 Mara ordered. The team retreated toward the shuttle, laying down covering fire. Zoreth, still restrained, was shoved into the craft by Elias. You won't leave this ship alive, Zoreth snarled, his yellow eyes blazing. Watch us, Elias retorted, slamming the hatch shut. Inside the cramped shuttle, Kara slid into the pilot's seat, her fingers flying over the controls. Strap in. This is going to be rough. The shuttle lifted off the hangar floor, its engines roaring as Kara angled it toward the bay doors. They're locking us in, Jace warned, pointing to the massive metal doors beginning to close. Not if I can help it, Kara said, flipping a series of switches. The shuttle's thrusters flared, propelling it forward at breakneck speed. The doors were nearly shut when the shuttle blasted through the gap, emerging into open space. Behind them, the Dominion's wrath loomed like an angry titan. Brace for pursuit, Mara said, her eyes scanning the sensors. No pursuit, Zorus said, his tone eerily calm. Your escape is meaningless. You've only delayed the inevitable. Mara turned to him, her expression cold. That's where you're wrong. You're leveraged now. Your people will think twice before attacking us again. Zorith laughed, a harsh, guttural sound. You underestimate the Dominion. They will not falter, even without me. We'll see, Mara said, her voice like steel. The shuttle sped away, the Dominion's wrath growing smaller in the viewport. For the first time in hours, the tension began to ease. What's our next move? Elias asked. We take Zorith to command, Mara replied. And we make sure the galaxy knows humanity doesn't break. The team sat in silence, the weight of their mission settling over them. They had survived the impossible, but the war was far from over. Mara stared out the viewport, her jaw set. The stakes had never been higher, but she was ready. Humanity would endure. And they would fight until the end.